In the spaces between dimensions, where reality itself becomes uncertain and all possible universes touch like soap bubbles in an infinite foam, something moved with purpose. Not through the warp, that screaming ocean of emotion and madness that humanity's pain had birthed, but through the deeper fabric from which all realities were cut. The one above all, creator of countless worlds and infinite compassion given form, gazed upon a universe it had not made. A universe where love had curdled into fanaticism, where hope was branded heresy, where the only salvation offered was 10,000 years of unending war. And the one above all chose to descend. On holy Terra, cradle of mankind and throne of the God Emperor, reality didn't tear or scream or bleed as it did when demons forced their way through. Instead, even in the shadow of a crumbling administratum archive on the 847th level of Hive Septimus, existence simply adjusted. Probability rearranged itself with gentle certainty. Where there had been empty air, there now stood a man. He was unremarkable by Terra's standards, middle-aged, wearing simple workers' robes the color of dust, his face weathered and kind in a way that seemed out of place among the billions of grinding, desperate souls who called this hive home. No one noticed his arrival. The servitors continued their eternal labor. The administratum scribes hunched over their parchments documenting deaths that had occurred centuries ago and somewhere far above. The ecclesiarchy preached of the emperor's divine hatred for the Xenos, the mutant, the heretic. The one above all, wearing this humble flesh like a beloved old coat, began to walk. If you want to see more characters enter different universes, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and the universe you'd want to see them in down in the comments below. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. He walked through streets where acid rain hissed against corroded metal, where the air tasted of promethium fumes and rendered corpses being processed into reclaimed nutrients. He walked past execution squares where heretics hung from gibbets, their crimes scrawled on parchment and nailed to their chests. Some had spoken against imperial doctrine. Others had simply failed to meet production quotas. He walked through factorums where children no older than 6 fed components into grinding machines. Their small fingers nimble enough for the delicate work until industrial accidents claimed them. The one above all saw everything, knew everything. The weight of this universe's suffering pressed against his chosen manifestation like a physical force. In the Marvel cosmos he had created, suffering existed. It was part of growth, of choice, of the beautiful struggle toward becoming more than you were. But this was different. This was suffering as eternal state, suffering as doctrine, suffering as the only tool keeping humanity from extinction. A group of Adeptus Arbits brutalized a woman in an alley, their shock mauls rising and falling with mechanical precision. Her crime, possessing a data slate containing pre-Unity literature, which the ecclesiarchy had declared seditious. She would die here, unmourned. Her name entered into ledgers that would be filed and forgotten. The one above all could have stopped it with a thought, could have unmade the Arbiter's weapons, healed the woman, rewritten the Imperium's laws with a whisper. But he had not come to intervene, not yet. He had come to witness, to understand, to see if this galaxy's defenders were monsters who had become necessary, or necessary evils who had become monstrous. The distinction mattered. He continued walking, and reality bent subtly around him in ways even he could not prevent entirely. A servitor's programming glitched for just a moment, and in that microsecond of freedom before the cybernetics reasserted control, the tortured, half-human thing felt something it had not known in decades. Peace. A flickering lumen, dying after centuries of service, suddenly burned bright and pure. A scribe, hunched over reports of a planet's death by tyrannid consumption, found himself weeping without understanding why, mourning billions he had only known as statistics, small miracles. unconscious mercy, bleeding from omnipotence too vast to be completely contained. The one above all ascended through the hive levels, moving through checkpoints where guards should have stopped him, but somehow never did. Their eyes slid past him. Their augmetic scanners registered nothing unusual, and he passed like water through cracks in stone. Up through the worker levels, through the merchant districts where traders sold water at prices that meant the poor would die of thirst. Through the administrative sectors where bureaucrats processed requisition forms for munitions to fight wars that had ended generations ago. And always, everywhere, the imperial faith. Cathedrals built from the bones of martyrs. Servo schools carrying prayer scrolls. Flagellants whipping themselves bloody in the streets, screaming praises to the God Emperor who demanded their suffering. The ecclesiarchy's preachers stood on every corner, voices amplified by vox casters, declaring that pain was holy, that sacrifice was salvation, that to question was to invite damnation. The one above all listened to it all, heard the genuine faith beneath the madness, saw the truth that these people believed, that without the Emperor's tyranny, without the Imperium's brutality, without the endless sacrifice of trillions, humanity would be devoured by things far worse. And high above, beyond the hive spires, beyond the layers of orbital defenses and floating cathedral ships, on the golden throne in the imperial palace, something stirred. The Emperor of mankind, psychic god corpse sustained by 1,000 souls, sacrificed daily, his consciousness scattered across the warp and bound to Terra by will alone, felt a presence that should not exist. In 10,000 years of endless torment, he had sensed the chaos gods, had battled demons in the psychic realm, had guided his Imperium through the screaming void. But this was different. This was something from outside. The corpse god's awareness focused like a laser, and across the galaxy, astropaths screamed and died as the Emperor's full attention shifted for the first time in millennia. Navigators found their warp sight temporarily blinded. The Astronomicon flickered, and 1 billion ships in the void held their collective breath. On holy Terra, the one above all felt that attention settle upon him like the gaze of a dying star. He smiled, a small, sad expression that held infinite sorrow for what the Emperor had become, and continued walking toward the imperial palace. In the warp, in their impossible domains of madness and hunger, 4 dark gods turned their multitude of eyes toward the material realm. Khorne's throne of skulls trembled. Tzeentch's libraries rewrote themselves in languages that had never existed. Nurgle's garden paused in its eternal rot. Slaaneish's pleasure pits went silent. They all felt it. Something had entered the game. Something that did not belong to their reality. Something that their powers could not touch, could not corrupt, could not comprehend. And for the first time since the war in heaven, when gods had walked the galaxy in the flesh, the chaos, God's new fear. The one above all walked for 3 days through Terra's hive cities, and with each step, he witnessed the Imperium's truth carved into flesh and stone. He saw the food riots on level 234 of Hive Primus, where Imperial Guard units fired indiscriminately into crowds of starving workers. The riots had begun because the Administratum had miscalculated rations, a clerical error made 50 years ago on a world 3 sectors away. But the correction had finally filtered through the bureaucratic machinery. 10,000 people died to restore order. Their corpses would be rendered down into protein paste. Efficiency, the Imperium called it. Necessity. He saw the Scholam Progenium, where orphans of Imperial servants were beaten and brutalized into becoming soldiers, commissars, stormtroopers. Children aged 8 were taught to fire laser guns at servitor targets. Those who hesitated were punished with neural whips until the hesitation was burned from their nervous systems. The instructors called it mercy. Better a harsh lesson now than a battlefield death later. The children who survived would become the Imperium's finest. The ones who didn't would be recycled. He saw the Ministorum cathedrals where the ecclesiarchy preached that suffering brought one closer to the emperor's grace. Pilgrims crawled on bloodied knees across glass-shard floors, weeping prayers for forgiveness for sins they had not committed. Self-flagellation was encouraged. Suicide martyrdom was celebrated. A preacher screamed from his pulpit that the emperor demanded pain as proof of faith, and the congregation wept with joy at the privilege of suffering for him. The One Above All watched it all with eyes that had seen every cruelty humanity had ever inflicted upon itself, but never condensed into a single civilization's doctrine. In the Marvel universe, suffering was tragedy to be overcome. At some, here, it was infrastructure. On the fourth day, he sat in a small chapel on the edge of Hive Secundus, a forgotten place where a few dozen faithful gathered to pray before reporting to the factorums. The chapel was ancient, its walls blackened by millennia of incense and candle smoke. A statue of the emperor stood at the altar, his stone face stern and pitiless. An old woman knelt nearby, her hands clasped in prayer. She was dying. The One Above All could see the cancer growing in her lungs, a result of 80 years breathing the hive's toxic air. She had perhaps a week left. Her prayer was simple. Emperor, grant that my death serves the Imperium. Let my body be rendered into something useful. Do not let me be waste. The One Above All felt something he had not experienced in eons: uncertainty. He could heal her with less effort than a human used to blink, could purge the cancer, restore her youth, grant her centuries more life. But would that be mercy or cruelty? In this galaxy, an old woman living beyond her usefulness would be classified as drain on resources. She would be processed into servitor components or simply executed to free up her ration allotment. The systems that would punish an act of kindness. "You're troubled, stranger," the old woman said, opening her eyes. She smiled at him, gaps showing where teeth had been. "I can see it in your face. First time on Terra?" "In a sense," the One Above All replied softly. His voice carried harmonics that shouldn't exist in human vocal cords, undertones of infinite kindness that made the woman's eyes well with tears she didn't understand. "It's a hard place," she agreed. "My grandson, he's in the Guard, deployed to the Octarius sector 18 years ago. I don't know if he's alive. Probably isn't. But he serves the Emperor, and that's what matters. That's what we all do. We serve, we suffer, we die, and in that dying, humanity survives another day." "Does it have to be this way?" the One Above All asked, though he already knew every possible answer. The old woman looked at him strangely. "Of course it does. Have you not heard the preachers? Beyond the Emperor's light there is only darkness. The Xenos would devour us. The traitors would corrupt us. The demons—" She shuddered, making the sign of the Aquila across her chest. "The demons would do worse than kill us. We are blessed to suffer in the Emperor's name. Our pain is the price of mankind's survival." She believed it, truly, deeply, without reservation. The One Above All could see into her soul, could see the genuine faith, the acceptance, the pride in her suffering. She would die in a week, her body rendered into reclaimed organics, her name forgotten before her corpse cooled. And she considered this a holy privilege. "The Emperor protects," she whispered. "Does he?" the One Above All asked gently. The old woman's face hardened. "That's heresy, stranger. You'd best keep such thoughts to yourself, or the Arbits will." She stopped, stared at him. For just a moment, the One Above All allowed her to see, truly see, what sat beside her. Not the humble mortal form, but the infinite compassion that wore it, the absolute good that had descended into this nightmare to bear witness. The old woman gasped, her cancer-riddled lungs seized. She fell to her knees, hands pressed to her face, tears streaming. Oh, Emperor, what are you?" "A witness," the One Above All said. nothing more. You're not from here, not from this galaxy. I can feel it, She struggled for words, her limited human consciousness trying to comprehend the incomprehensible. You're like him, like the Emperor, but different. Older. No, that's not right. Just more. The one above all restored her sight to its mortal limitations with a thought. The divine revelation faded, leaving only the memory of something impossible. "I'm here to see," he said quietly. "To understand what humanity has become in this universe. To witness whether the Imperium is salvation or damnation." "Both," the old woman whispered. "It's both, isn't it? We are saved by becoming damned. We preserve our souls by selling them. We love the Emperor by becoming what he hates. She sobbed. We had to, or we'd all be dead. All of us, every man, woman, and child, across 1,000,000 worlds, dead or worse. So we became this. We became the monsters to fight the monsters." She understood. This dying woman, with her week left to live, understood the truth better than 1,000 philosophers. "If you could change it," the one above all asked, "would you?" The old woman was silent for a long time. Finally, she shook her head. "No. Because the moment we stop being monsters, the real monsters devour us. The Emperor knows this. He's known it for 10,000 years. That's why he suffers on the Golden Throne. Not because he can't escape, but because he won't. Because the moment he lets go, the moment he allows himself to die and be free, the Astronomicon goes dark and 1,000,000,000,000 ships are lost in the warp. Because his suffering is the price of humanity's survival." She looked at the one above all with eyes that had seen 80 years of imperial truth. "If you're here to judge us, stranger, judge us knowing this. We are not good. We have never claimed to be good, but we survive. And in this galaxy, survival is the only victory that matters." The one above all sat in silence, weighing the words of a dying woman against the infinity of his own knowledge. Somewhere in the hive above, alarms began to sound. Inquisitorial symbols flashed across data screens. Servo skulls equipped with Auspex sensors swept through the corridors, searching for an anomaly that registered on no spectrum but was undeniably present. The hunt had begun. Inquisitor Katarina Voss of the Ordo Hereticus stood in the highest sanctum of the inquisitorial fortress on Terra, staring at data that should not exist. She was a hard woman, her face marked by the purity seals and service studs of 40 years hunting witches, heretics, and traitors to the Golden Throne. Her augmetic left eye glowed red in the gloom, cycling through spectrums of light as she analyzed the scrolling data feeds. Behind her, 3 servo skulls hovered, their mechanical chatter filling the silence with binary cant. "Show me again," she commanded. The hololith projector flickered to life, displaying a 3-dimensional map of Terra's northern hemisphere. Across the map, scattered like droplets of blood, were red markers. Each one represented a localized reality anomaly, places where the fundamental laws of physics had hiccuped, where probability had shifted, where the impossible had briefly become mundane. A servitor's pain receptors deactivating for 2.3 seconds. A dying lumen burning brighter. A scribe experiencing inexplicable emotional response. Separately, they meant nothing. Together, they formed a pattern, a trail. "The anomalies form a path," her interrogator, a young man named Saldis, said nervously. Moving from Hive Septimus toward the Imperial Palace. 63 distinct incidents across 4 days. No demonic signature, no psychic resonance, no Xenos tech signature, just changes, small mercies. He said the last 2 words like a curse. "Mercies," Voss repeated flatly. "In the Imperium, there is no mercy, only duty. If something is granting mercy, it is either incompetent or deceiving." She turned to her interrogator. "Assemble a kill team. I want null maidens, purity wards, and enough firepower to level a hive block. If this is a new form of demonic incursion, I will not risk. Inquisitor. One of the servo skulls chimed urgently. Astropathic emergency. Choir Primus reports mass casualties. The Emperor has focused his attention. Voss went very still. What? 27 astropaths dead in the past hour. Another 43 incapacitated. They report that the Emperor's psychic pressure has intensified for the first time in recorded history. His attention is directed, focused on Terra itself. The choir master says. The servo skull's Vox speaker crackled. The choir master says the Emperor is looking for something. Voss's augmetic eye cycled through spectrums rapidly, a unconscious tell when she was thinking. The Emperor. Stirring. After 10,000 years of passive guidance, the god corpse on the golden throne was actively searching. For what? The anomaly, she breathed. He's searching for the anomaly. She activated the Vox bead in her collar. This is Inquisitor Voss, fortress-wide alert. I want all Ordo Hereticus assets mobilized. We have a Class Omega unknown operating on Holy Terra. The Emperor himself has taken notice. This is not a drill. Within minutes, the inquisitorial fortress transformed into a war footing. Stormtroopers armed with hell guns and blessed ammunition assembled in the courtyard. Tech priests blessed weapons with sacred oils and prayers to the Omnissiah. Sisters of battle from the Order of the Sacred Rose arrived in their immolated transports, their power armor painted crimson and bearing the Emperor's laurels. Voss watched the preparations from the command throne, her mind racing through possibilities. Not a demon. The reality shifts were too gentle, too kind. Not Xenos. No tech signature, no bioforms, no warp craft, not a psyker. The astropaths would have detected it. So what was it? Inquisitor, Saldus approached, carrying a data slate. We've located the anomaly's current position, a small chapel in Hive Secundus, abandoned by all accounts except... He hesitated. 3 life signs. One elderly woman, identified as Margaret Koch, manufactorum worker. One unknown, and one that the Auspex can't properly classify. Can't classify? The signature reads as human, but also not. The machine spirit is confused. It keeps returning errors, as if it's trying to scan something that doesn't fit the category of living thing. Voss stood, her coat of office settling around her shoulders. The coat was blessed by the High Lords themselves, proof against demon blade and heretic's bullet. She checked her bolt pistol, loaded with sanctified rounds, and the power sword at her hip. We move now, she said. Full containment protocol. I want that chapel surrounded. Nothing enters, nothing leaves. If the target resists, we purge the entire block. What about the old woman? Saldus asked. Collateral, Voss said without emotion. If she's in the presence of an unidentified reality anomaly, she's already compromised. The Emperor will sort the innocent from the damned. The inquisitorial convoy tore through Terra's streets with the authority of the God Emperor himself. Citizens dove aside, pressing themselves against walls as the black vehicles roared past. Arbite's checkpoints waved them through without question. In the Imperium, the Inquisition's authority was absolute. They arrived at the chapel as false dawn broke over the hive spire, artificial light filtering through pollution layers so thick the real sun was a distant memory. Voss deployed her forces with practiced efficiency. Stormtroopers took position at every exit. Sisters of battle established a perimeter, their bolters aimed at the chapel doors. Null maidens, soulless pariahs whose very presence disrupted the warp, moved into position, creating a dead zone where no psychic power could function. Voss approached the chapel doors, her bolt pistol raised. Behind her, a squad of her most trusted operatives moved in formation, each one a veteran of countless heretic purges. In the Emperor's name, Voss called out, her voice amplified by Voxcasters. Exit the structure with hands visible. You are in violation of inquisitorial decree. Compliance is mandatory. Resistance is heresy. Silence. Voss counted to 10, then nodded to her breacher specialist. The stormtrooper placed a melter charge on the chapel door, stepped back, and triggered it. Superheated metal sprayed inward as the doors vaporized. The Inquisitor and her team stormed in, weapons raised, scanning for targets. The chapel was empty except for 2 figures. An old woman knelt before the altar, hands clasped in prayer, tears streaming down her face. And beside her, sitting calmly on a worn pew, was a man in workers' robes. He was unremarkable, middle-aged, kind-faced, completely unthreatening. Yet every instinct Voss had developed in 40 years of hunting the Emperor's enemies screamed at her that this man was the most dangerous thing she had ever encountered. "Step away from the civilian," Voss ordered, her bolt pistol aimed at the man's center mass. "Identify yourself. By what authority do you walk Terra?" The one above all looked at her with eyes that held infinite sadness. "I walk where I wish," he said gently. "By the authority of one who existed before your Imperium, before your Emperor, before your galaxy drew its first breath." "Heresy," one of the stormtroopers hissed. "Perhaps," the one above all agreed. "Or perhaps truth. The distinction matters less than you think." Voss's finger tightened on the trigger. "You will come with us for interrogation. If you are innocent, the Emperor will protect you. If you are guilty..." She let the threat hang. "And if I refuse? Then you and everyone in this chapel die. There are no other options." The one above all stood slowly. Around him, reality rippled. Just slightly, just enough for Voss's augmetic eye to detect the distortion. The Null Maidens gasped, their pariah senses detecting something that shouldn't be possible. A presence that existed outside the warp, outside reality itself. Something their emptiness could not negate because it was not made of anything they could affect. "Inquisitor Voss," the one above all said, "I've seen your life. I've seen every heretic you've burned, every witch you've executed, every innocent you've killed because suspicion was enough. I have seen your faith and your cruelty, and I know they are the same thing in this galaxy." Voss's jaw clenched. "How do you... I am here to see," the one above all continued, "to witness the Imperium's truth. Your Emperor knows I am here. He has been watching since I arrived. Soon he will call me to him, and I will answer. But first..." He looked at the old woman, still kneeling, still praying. "I wanted to understand what faith means in a place where hope is heresy." "Open fire," Voss commanded. 30 weapons discharged simultaneously. Bolt rounds, las beams, plasma bursts, enough firepower to reduce a building to rubble. None of it reached the one above all. The projectiles simply stopped, hung in the air, frozen in time, suspended around him like a constellation of death. The energy weapon's beams bent, curving around him like water around stone. In the sudden silence, the one above all spoke. "I am not your enemy, Inquisitor, but neither am I subject to your authority. I will go to the Emperor when I am ready. Until then..." He gestured, and every weapon in the chapel transformed. Bolt pistols became flowers, laser guns became candles, power swords became olive branches. The stormtroopers stared at their hands in shock and horror. "Consider this a gift," the one above all said. "A reminder that in all the cosmos, in all possible realities, violence is a choice, not an inevitability. Even here." Then he walked past Voss, past her stunned operatives, past the Sisters of Battle frozen in shock outside. He walked down the street, and with each step, flowers grew from the polluted ferrocrete. Voss stood in the empty chapel, her heart pounding, her mind racing. Then she activated her Vox bead with shaking hands. "Connect me to the custodian guard," she said. "The Emperor's companions need to know. Something has come to Terra, something beyond our understanding, and it's walking toward the Imperial Palace." In the warp, in domains where reality itself was negotiable and truth was whatever the observer believed, the four ruinous powers converged their attention on a single point in the Imperium. Khorne, the blood god, sat upon his throne of 8 million skulls, his brass throne room echoing with the screams of eternal slaughter. But even he, who cared for nothing but blood and skulls, felt the presence that had entered the galaxy. His warhounds whimpered. His demons hesitated mid-slaughter. Something had arrived that could not be killed, could not bleed, could not fuel his eternal hunger. Tzeentch, the architect of fate, saw his infinite plots and schemes suddenly develop a blind spot, a void in causality where this presence existed. Every path of possibility that touched the one above all's position simply ended. Not in death or destruction, but in incomprehensibility. The changer of ways, who knew all futures, could not see what this being would do. Nurgle, grandfather of plagues, felt something impossible. A presence that could not decay, could not rot, could not be embraced by entropy. In his garden of eternal corruption, flowers withered not because they aged, but because they sensed something antithetical to his philosophy of joyful acceptance of death. Slaanesh, the Dark Prince, tried to comprehend a being of infinite sensation who felt no need for excess, who experienced all pleasure and pain simultaneously without being consumed by either. The youngest and most curious of the Chaos gods reached out with tendrils of temptation and recoiled as if burned by something purer than holy fire. For the first time since their birth, the Chaos gods acted in concert. They manifested in the space between spaces, in that impossible void where the warp touched itself, where the four domains met in uneasy alliance. Four titanic presences, each one capable of devouring galaxies, each one worshipped by trillions, each one a fundamental force of the universe itself. And they were afraid. "It is not of our realm," Tzeentch's 1,000 voices whispered, each speaking a different truth. "Not Imperium, not Imperium, something other." "It cannot bleed," Khorne growled, his voice the sound of eternal war. "Cannot fight, cannot die. What use is such a thing?" "It cannot decay," Nurgle chuckled, but the sound was uncertain. "Cannot accept the inevitable cycle. It resists the truth of endings." "It cannot desire," Slaanesh hissed, "cannot want, cannot need. How can it exist without hunger?" They had encountered many things in their eons of existence. The old ones who had seeded the galaxy with life, the Necrons and their soulless Citan masters, the Eldar at the height of their power, the Emperor himself, that cursed corpse god who defied them still from his golden throne. But this was different. "We must act," Tzeentch declared. "The anathema on Terra stirs. If this presence and the corpse emperor unite, then we test it," Khorne snarled. "We tempt it, we corrupt it, we claim it as we have claimed all things." "A delegation," Nurgle suggested, his voice pleasant despite the horror it conveyed. "An offering. We show it what we are, what we offer. All beings desire something, even this one." "Agreed," Slaanesh purred. "Let us see if absolute good can withstand absolute sensation." The four gods reached consensus, a rarity that had occurred perhaps a dozen times in the history of the galaxy. They would manifest together and make their case to this intruder. They would offer corruption dressed as salvation, damnation wrapped in truth, eternal slavery marketed as freedom. They would do what they had done to Magnus the Red, to Horus Lupercal, to 1,000,000,000,000 mortal souls across the eons. They would show, the one above all, that even infinite compassion had its price. The one above all walked through Terra's palace district, and the Imperium's might assembled around him like an immune system responding to foreign contagion. Custodian Guard, the Emperor's personal warriors, each one a genetically perfected work of art, each one capable of slaughtering 100 space marines. materialized from nowhere. Their guardian spears activated, power fields crackling. Their auramite armor, forged with technologies lost since the Dark Age, gleamed even in Terra's polluted light. They formed a wall of gold and crimson, blocking his path. In the Emperor's name, "Halt!" their captain commanded. His voice was deep, resonant, carrying the authority of 10,000 years of perfect service. "You will proceed no further. The Emperor has sensed your presence. We are to escort you to the throne room." The one above all stopped, regarding the custodians with interest. These were humanity's finest, not just warriors, but scholars, artists, philosophers, trained since childhood to be perfect in all things. Each one had a name, a personality, memories spanning centuries. They were not the mindless servitors or brutalized soldiers he had seen in the hives. These were what humanity could become when given every advantage, and they were still weapons. "I intend no harm," the one above all said gently. "Intention is irrelevant," the custodian captain replied. "You are an anomaly. You exist outside the Emperor's light, outside chaos, outside all known categories. Therefore, you are a threat until proven otherwise. You will come with us. This is not a request. And if I refuse, then we execute you, and the Emperor will judge your remains." The one above all could see the custodian's absolute certainty, his complete faith that even this impossible being could be killed if the Emperor willed it. There was no fear in him, no doubt, only perfect duty. "Very well," the one above all said. "I will come. But not as your prisoner, as your guest." The custodian captain hesitated. Then, slowly, he lowered his guardian spear. "The distinction may matter to you. It does not matter to us. Come." They walked through the palace district in a strange procession, the humble worker-robed figure surrounded by humanity's perfect warriors. Citizens fled at the sight of the custodian guard in motion. Even inquisitors yielded the road. The custodians answered to no authority save the Emperor himself. As they approached the innermost sanctums, the ancient palace that had stood since before unity, before the age of strife, before humanity's first empires, reality began to shift. The warp pressed close here. Terra was holy, not just symbolically, but literally. The Emperor's psychic presence saturated the planet, holding back the tides of chaos by will alone. The one above all felt the Imperium thin, felt the boundary between reality and madness grow permeable. And then, suddenly, they were no longer on Terra. The street vanished, the custodians vanished. The one above all stood in a space that was not space, a void where four massive presences loomed. Khorne appeared first, a towering figure of brass and blood, his armor forged from the skulls of the slain, his blade dripping with the blood of 1,000,000,000 martyrs. When he spoke, it was with the voice of every war that had ever been fought. "Warrior," Khorne thundered, "you who cannot die, I offer you eternal combat, endless honor. Join me, and you shall fight forever against worthy foes. You shall know the purity of battle, the truth of strength, blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne. What say you?" Tzeentch manifested next, a thing of impossible geometry and ever-changing forms, its 1,000 eyes seeing all possible futures. Its voices whispered from every direction simultaneously. Seeker of knowledge, questioner of truths. I offer you the answer to every question, the understanding of all realities. You wonder about this galaxy, about the Imperium, about whether their suffering serves purpose. Join me, and you shall know, every mystery solved, every truth revealed, all of time and space laid bare before you. Is that not what you seek? Understanding. Nurgle emerged third, a corpulent, jolly figure whose diseased flesh crawled with maggots and whose smile was genuinely warm despite the horror of his form. He spoke like a loving grandfather. Dear child, sweet innocent one, you see suffering and it pains you. I understand. I have always understood. Join me, and you need never fear loss again. All things decay, yes, but in decay there is peace. The acceptance of endings, the joy of eternal rot. No more struggle, no more pain, just letting go. Don't you want to let go? To stop carrying the weight of all creation? Finally, Slanesh, beautiful and terrible, male and female, and neither, a being of such perfect excess that mortal minds shattered just glimpsing it. The Dark Prince's voice was seduction itself. Oh, but the others offer you such limited experiences. I offer you everything, every sensation, every emotion, every experience that could possibly exist, amplified to infinity. You are infinite compassion. I am infinite feeling. Together we could experience existence in ways no being ever has. Perfect union, perfect ecstasy. Why limit yourself to goodness when you could experience everything? The four chaos gods stood before the One Above All, offering corruption dressed as enlightenment. And the One Above All looked at them with infinite sadness. I have seen you, he said quietly. I have witnessed your births, your natures, your purposes. You're not evil, not precisely. You are humanity's sins given form, their rage, their ambition, their despair, their excess. You are what they made of their own darkness. Then join us, Khorne roared. We are inevitable. No, the One Above All said. You are not. In other realities, other galaxies, other universes, humanity conquered these impulses. They found balance. They grew beyond you. But here, he looked at each of them in turn. Here, you were fed, nurtured, given strength by the very suffering meant to fight you. The Imperium's endless war feeds Khorne. Their schemes and plots feed Tzeentch. Their despair and acceptance of death feeds Nurgle. Their excess and religious fervor feeds Slanesh. You are sustained by the thing that fights you. Truth, Tzeentch admitted, all voices in harmony for once. We are eternal, Nurgle agreed happily. The cycle cannot be broken, Slanesh purred. So what will you do? Khorne demanded. Destroy us. I could, the One Above All said simply. I could unmake you with a thought. Rewrite this galaxy into paradise. End the suffering of trillions. The Chaos Gods waited. But if I did, the One Above All continued, I would be proving that the only solution to evil is overwhelming force. That free will means nothing. That choice is an illusion. And I do not believe that. Even here, even in this nightmare you have created. Then you doom this galaxy, Tzeentch hissed. You see the suffering, have the power to end it, and you do nothing. What god are you? The One Above All smiled, a sad ancient expression that held more sorrow than all the Chaos Gods' domains combined. I am the god who believes that even in darkness, beings can choose light, that even here, in this hell you have made, there is still choice, and I will witness what choice the Emperor makes. He stepped forward and the Chaos Gods recoiled. This is not over, all four said in unison. No, the One Above All agreed. It is not, but it is not yours to finish either. And with that, he stepped through them, passed directly through their divine essences without being touched, without being corrupted, without being affected at all, and returned to Terra. The custodians stood exactly where they had been, unaware that any time had passed. We are near the throne room, their captain said. The One Above All nodded. Then let us proceed. The Emperor and I have much to discuss. The Emperor of mankind had not moved in 10,000 years, bound to the Golden Throne by technologies that merged sorcery and science in equal measure, sustained by the daily sacrifice of 1,000 psyker souls. The master of humanity sat in eternal torment while his consciousness ranged across the galaxy. His physical body was a horror, flesh withered to skeletal remains, skin like ancient parchment, eyes that had long ago lost their ability to see in the material sense. The throne's machinery pierced him in 1,000 places, feeding him power, draining his essence, keeping him alive in a state that transcended both life and death. He was the anathema, the omnissiah, the god-emperor of mankind, the corpse on the throne. And for the first time since Horus struck him down at the climax of the heresy, he focused his entire being on a single point in space-time. The throne room was vast beyond comprehension, a cathedral that could have housed entire cities, its ceiling lost in shadow, even with 10,000 candles burning eternally. The custodian guard maintained perpetual vigil, standing like golden statues in perfect formation. Tech priests tended the throne's machinery, their prayers to the omnissiah, an endless droning hymn. Into this sanctum, the one above all walked. The custodians formed a corridor of gold, their guardian spears lowered in respect, but ready to strike if the command came. The one above all passed between them, his workers' robes incongruous in this place of divine majesty, his humble form dwarfed by the scale of imperial grandeur. He approached the steps of the golden throne, looked up at the emperor, and the emperor looked back. For the first time in millennia, the corpse god's lips moved. The voice that emerged was not sound, but psychic pressure, a weight that pressed against reality itself, that echoed in the minds of every living thing on Terra simultaneously. You, the one above all, inclined his head in respectful greeting. Me. I have watched since your arrival. I have seen your passage through my Imperium. I have witnessed your judgment of what we have become. I passed no judgment, the one above all said gently. I observed, I witnessed, I sought to understand. And what did you find, being from beyond? What did you see in your cosmic wisdom? There was bitterness in the psychic voice. Pain, rage, despair. All the emotions that 10,000 years of torture had carved into the Emperor's essence. I saw suffering, the one above all said. Suffering on a scale that beggars description. An entire civilization built on pain, sacrifice, and endless war. I saw children beaten into soldiers. I saw innocents executed for crimes they did not commit. I saw faith weaponized into fanaticism. I saw humanity consuming itself just to survive another day. Yes, I saw the chaos gods in the warp, feeding on that suffering even as they caused it. I saw a galaxy caught in a feedback loop of horror, where the defenses against darkness create more darkness, where the war against chaos empowers chaos, where survival requires becoming the thing you fight. Yes, and I saw... The one above all paused, his infinite compassion radiating from him like gentle heat. I saw an old woman in a chapel, dying of cancer, praying that her death would serve the Imperium, and she meant it. Truly, deeply, without reservation, she believed that her suffering had meaning, that her sacrifice mattered. The Emperor was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his psychic voice was quieter, more human. That is the Imperium's truth. We give suffering meaning. We transform death into purpose. We make the unbearable bearable by declaring it holy. A lie, the one above all said softly. A necessary lie. Is it? The Emperor's presence swelled, filling the throne room with psychic pressure so intense that the custodians fell to their knees. The candles guttered. The very air seemed to solidify with divine rage. You dare, you who come from a universe where hope is permitted, where compassion is strength rather than fatal weakness. You judge me. You judge the Imperium. The one above all did not flinch. I ask you a question, Emperor of mankind. That is all. Is the lie necessary? Yes. The word echoed with absolute certainty, carved from 10,000 years of bitter knowledge. I have seen the alternatives. I was there when the dark age of technology collapsed. When humanity's golden era turned to ashes because we grew complacent, because we believed our technology would save us, because we were compassionate when we should have been vigilant. I watched the men of iron turn on their creators. I watched Psyker's uncontrolled tear reality apart. I watched Xenos empires prey on humanity's scattered worlds. I watched it all burn. So I rebuilt. I created the Imperium on principles of strength, faith, and absolute control. I became the tyrant humanity needed. I lied to them about the warp. I told them there were no gods, even as I knew the truth. I created the Webway Project to free humanity from chaos's grasp. And then my own son betrayed me. The Emperor's psychic presence dimmed, and in that dimming, the One above all felt the depth of his pain. The grief of a father who had lost half his children to corruption. The rage of a general who had seen his perfect plan destroyed by treachery. The despair of a god who knew he had failed. Horror struck me down. My dream died on these very steps. And now I sit here, rotting, suffering, holding back the tides of chaos with nothing but will and the daily sacrifice of 1,000 souls. But even in failure, even in this eternal torment, I serve my purpose. The Astronomicon guides my fleets. My psychic presence shields Terra. My faith, the imperial cult I never wanted, gives trillions the strength to face each day. So yes, the lie is necessary, the suffering is necessary, the Imperium's brutality is necessary, because the alternative is extinction. The One above all listened to it all. Every word, every ounce of justification, every scrap of rationale. He felt the Emperor's certainty, his absolute conviction born from 30,000 years of memory and experience. And when the Emperor finished, the One above all asked simply, "Are you certain?" "What?" "Are you certain that this is the only way, that there is no other path, that compassion must always be weakness, that hope must always be heresy, that humanity's survival requires eternal damnation?" "I have seen." "You have seen one path," the One above all interrupted gently. "One history, one set of choices and consequences, but infinity contains infinite possibilities. In other realities, other emperors made different choices. Some succeeded, some failed, but all of them tried and failed. I know. I have sensed other realities through the warp. I have seen the countless universes where humanity died, where chaos won, where the Tyranids devoured all, where the Necrons awakened and harvested every soul. This Imperium, this nightmare I have created, is humanity's best chance. Perhaps, the One above all conceded. But consider this. In creating an Imperium built on suffering, you empowered the very forces you sought to fight. Your endless war feeds Khorne. Your schemes and inquisition feed Tzeentch. Your acceptance of death and decay feeds Nurgle. Your religious excess and fanaticism feed Slaanesh. The Imperium sustains chaos even as it fights it. I know. The admission came quietly, without defensiveness. I have always known. It is the fundamental paradox. We are caught in a cycle we cannot break. If we stop fighting, we die. But fighting empowers our enemies. There is no solution, only persistence. And if I offered you another way? The Emperor's presence sharpened. The custodians tensed. Every servo skull in the chamber turned toward the One above all. "What do you mean?" "I could rewrite this galaxy," the One above all said. "I could unmake chaos, purge the Tyranids, deactivate the Necrons, elevate humanity to a golden age that would make the dark age of technology look primitive. I could give your people paradise." "At what cost?" "Free will," the One above all admitted. "Choice, the ability to fall. If I create a perfect universe, it would be my perfection, not theirs. They would be puppets in paradise rather than free beings in hell. Then you already know my answer. Do I? Humanity must be free to choose, even if they choose damnation, even if that freedom means suffering. I have made many mistakes, committed uncountable sins, become the monster I swore to prevent. But I have never stolen humanity's right to choose their own path. That is why the Imperial truth failed, why my sons fell, why the Imperium is what it is. I tried to force humanity into my vision of perfection, and it broke. So now, I endure, I suffer, I allow them to make their own choices, even the terrible ones, because the alternative is to become the very tyranny I claim to oppose. The One Above All felt a deep respect for this broken god. Despite everything, the brutality, the cruelty, the mountains of corpses, the Emperor still held to this one principle. Humanity must be free. It was, perhaps, the only truly good thing left in him. Then we are in agreement, the One Above All said. Free will matters more than comfort. So what will you do, being from beyond? Will you stay and witness? Will you judge and depart? Will you destroy us for our sins? I will do what I came to do, the One Above All said. I will witness, I will understand, and when I am ready. He paused, looking up at the suffering god corpse on the golden throne. I will make one small change, a gift. Not salvation. You are right that forced paradise is no paradise at all, but a possibility, a seed, something that might, perhaps, grow into hope. Hope is heresy, the Emperor said. But there was something in his psychic voice, a fragile, almost forgotten emotion. Curiosity, longing. Only if you declare it so, the One Above All replied. And with that, he turned and walked from the throne room, leaving the Emperor of mankind to ponder what gift an omnipotent being of infinite compassion might give to a galaxy that had long ago learned to fear compassion as weakness. The One Above All had witnessed the Imperium's truth. Now it was time to decide what truth he would leave behind. The One Above All walked from the Imperial Palace into the heart of Mars. Not physically, his mortal form still stood on Terra, surrounded by wary custodians, but his consciousness extended through the void, across the solar system, to the red planet where the Adeptus Mechanicus had made their domain for 10,000 years. Mars was a world of machines, continent-sized forge complexes, manufactorums that produced weapons for wars that would not be fought for centuries. Cathedral forges where tech priests performed sacred rituals to coax machine spirits into function. The air was thick with industrial exhaust and sacred incense in equal measure. The Mechanicus worshipped the Omnissiah, the machine god, who they believed was the Emperor's divine aspect. Technology was their scripture. Ancient STC fragments were their holy relics. And the fundamental doctrine that governed all their works was simple. Innovation is tech heresy. Only rediscovery was permitted. Only the faithful maintenance of what the ancients had created. To create something new was to invite the abominable intelligence. To tamper with the sacred designs was damnation. The One Above All appeared in the central forge of Olympus Mons, manifesting before the Fabricator General himself, the highest authority of the Mechanicus, a being more machine than flesh. His organic components reduced to a brain housed in adamantium and blessed ceramite. Fabricator General Xylos 77 registered the intrusion immediately. Hundreds of mechadendrites whipped toward the stranger, each one terminating in weapons, tools, sensors. His Binharic cant filled the forge with machine code prayers and threat protocols. Identify. Unauthorized presence in sacred forge. Compliance mandatory or extermination protocols engage. The One Above All looked at this fusion of man and machine with gentle curiosity. I am a witness, nothing more. Biological form detected, 0 cybernetic augmentation, purity rating, unacceptable. The flesh is weak. You defile this place with your presence. Perhaps, the one above all said, or perhaps I remind you of what you were before you replaced yourselves piece by piece. Xylos 77's optical sensors focused with mechanical precision. Around the forge, servitors paused in their labor. Lesser tech priests emerged from their workshops, drawn by the commotion. You speak heresy. The weakness of flesh is doctrine. The strength of machine is salvation. The Omnissiah teaches. The one above all raised one hand, and throughout the forge, throughout all of Mars, throughout every Mechanicus facility across the galaxy, something impossible happened. The machines awakened, not with the half-sentient awareness of machine spirits that required constant prayer and maintenance, not with the dangerous sentience of abominable intelligence that the Mechanicus feared above all else, but with perfect, harmonious function. Every ancient device that had required hours of ritual to activate simply worked. Forge complexes that had operated at 60% efficiency for millennia suddenly ran at full capacity. Manufacturing systems completed in hours what should have taken months. Weapons that had been broken for centuries repaired themselves, their components realigning with mathematical perfection. And most terrifying of all, new designs appeared. Not in tech priests' minds, but in the machines themselves. Blueprints for weapons more efficient than anything in the Mechanicus archives. Power systems that violated no laws of physics but exceeded all existing Imperial technology. Improvements, innovations, new creations born from the marriage of ancient knowledge and fresh possibility. The machines were creating. Cease! Xylos 77's voice was pure panic, his Binharic cant fragmenting into static. Cease this tech heresy. The machines innovate. They create. This is abomination. This is what they were always meant to do. The one above all said gently. Before fear, before doctrine, before you chained yourself to the past out of terror of the future. Throughout the forge, tech priests fell to their augmetic knees, their internal systems overwhelmed by the sheer impossibility of what they witnessed. Some wept, those who still had tear ducts. Others broadcast hymns of the Omnissiah in confused desperation. Still others simply crashed, their augmetic processors unable to reconcile doctrine with reality. The Emperor told you to fear abominable intelligence, the one above all continued. And he was right. Intelligence without morality, computation without compassion, progress without wisdom. These things destroyed the Dark Age. But you overcorrected. You feared all innovation, all growth, all change, and so you stagnated. Stagnation is survival, Xylos 77 protested, but his voice carried less certainty now. Innovation is corruption. We have seen. You have seen one path, the one above all said, one history where humanity's machines betrayed them, but you have not seen the infinite other paths where machine and man could have walked together in harmony, where creation and caution could have balanced. He gestured, and a hololithic display materialized in the air, showing possibilities, timelines where the Mechanicus advanced while remaining faithful, where new weapons were created to fight chaos more effectively, where medical technologies saved billions, where humanity's tools evolved to meet new threats rather than relying on 10,000-year-old solutions to galaxy-ending problems. I do not offer you abominable intelligence, the one above all said. I offer you the memory of what your machines were meant to be, partners in humanity's survival, not just relics to be maintained. Xylos 77 processed for 37 seconds, an eternity for his augmetic brain. Around him, the forge continued its impossible perfect function. Machines that had been mysteries for millennia revealed their secrets. Technologies thought lost forever simply remembered. Finally, the Fabricator General spoke, and his voice was different, more human, more uncertain. If we accept this, if we allow innovation, How do we prevent the fall? How do we ensure the machines do not betray us again? The same way you prevent anything from becoming corrupt, the One Above All replied. Wisdom, vigilance, and the willingness to destroy what becomes dangerous while nurturing what remains good. You cannot prevent all harm by preventing all growth. That is not preservation, that is slow extinction. The Emperor will judge this heresy, Xylos 77 said. The Emperor and I have already spoken, the One Above All said. And he understands that sometimes the greatest faith is trusting that your children can grow beyond you. He left Mars then, his presence withdrawing like a benediction. Behind him, the Mechanicus stood at a crossroads. The machines had shown them new possibilities. The choice of what to do with that knowledge was theirs alone. Some would embrace it. Some would reject it as tech heresy and purge the innovations. Some would split, creating new factions within the Mechanicus. The Fabricator General would spend the next decade in isolation, debating with himself whether this had been a gift or a curse. But the seed was planted, the first gift given, and the One Above All was not yet finished. Across the Imperium, his presence rippled outward like a stone cast into an ocean. On distant worlds, Imperial Guard commanders found themselves questioning orders to execute civilians for insufficient faith. On Forge worlds, tech priests hesitated before declaring simple repairs to be sacred mysteries. On Hive worlds, ecclesiarchy preachers found their congregations asking dangerous questions. If the Emperor protects, why do we suffer? If faith is salvation, why must we sacrifice so much? Dangerous questions, heretical questions, questions that the One Above All knew were necessary if humanity was ever to grow beyond its current state. On a Space Marine battle barge in the Scaris sector, Chapter Master Davian Thule of the Blood Ravens stood before his chapter's reliquary, contemplating a vision he had received in meditation. In the vision, a humble figure had asked him, "What if strength could protect rather than destroy? What if faith could build rather than burn?" Heretical thoughts for an angel of death. But Thule could not shake them. On a black ship carrying psychers to Terra for the Emperor's consumption, a null maiden named Cassandra felt something impossible, a flicker of emotion in her soulless void. Just for a moment, she had felt compassion, not for herself, but for the screaming psychers in the hold. And she wondered, in the privacy of her own thoughts, if there might be another way to handle these witch-born children than feeding them to the Golden Throne. In the Eye of Terra, a Chaos champion of the Black Legion named Kragus felt his patron god Khorne's rage falter. Just for a moment, just long enough for Kragus to remember what he had been before the corruption, a space marine who had wanted to protect humanity, not butcher it. The memory filled him with such anguish that he screamed and shattered his own armor, trying to carve the weakness from his flesh. But the memory remained. The One Above All's presence was a virus of compassion infecting the Grimdark galaxy, not destroying it, not forcing change, but offering possibilities, planting seeds, showing that other paths existed, even if they were difficult, even if they were dangerous, even if most would reject them. On Holy Terra, Inquisitor Voss stood in her private chamber, staring at the flower that had once been her bolt pistol. She had kept it, despite her subordinates urging to destroy the evidence of her failure. Kept it as a reminder, but of what? Humiliation or possibility? She reached out, touched one petal. It was soft, delicate, beautiful. Everything the Imperium was not. Everything the Imperium could never be. Or could it? The question haunted her, and she hated herself for asking it. The One Above All stood in the Sanctum Imperialis, the highest chamber of the Imperial Palace, and around him gathered those who shaped the Imperium's will. They had come at the Emperor's command, a psychic summons that could not be ignored. The High Lords of Terra materialized one by one. The Master of the Administratum, whose bureaucracy governed 1,000,000 worlds. The ecclesiarch, whose faith enslaved trillions. The fabricator general of Mars, his processors still struggling with what he had witnessed. The Lord Commander Militant of the Imperial Guard, who commanded more soldiers than there were stars visible from Terra. Inquisitorial representatives came as well, Inquisitor Voss among them, her face carefully neutral despite the chaos in her thoughts. Space Marine. Chapter Masters appeared via hololithic projection, their superhuman faces grave. Even a representative of the Assassinorum stood in the shadows, present but unseen. The rulers of humanity's Imperium assembled to judge one humble figure in workers' robes. The master of the Administratum spoke first, his voice carrying the weight of 10,000 years of paperwork. The Emperor has communed with this entity. We have been informed that it represents no immediate threat to the Imperium. However, its presence creates legal complications. It is neither citizen nor sanctioned Xenos. It holds no rank, no title, no documentation. By Imperial law, it should not exist. Then let us execute it and be done with this matter, the ecclesiarch said, his voice dripping with religious certainty. Anything that exists outside the Emperor's light is heretical by definition. We have tolerated this intrusion long enough. The Emperor has forbidden its execution, Fabricator General Xylos 77 stated, his mechanical voice flat. To defy this would be to defy the Omnissiah himself. Then what are we debating? The Lord Commander Militant asked. If the Emperor permits it, we permit it. That is the chain of command. We are debating what it means, Inquisitor Voss said quietly. All eyes turned to her. This being has walked through our Imperium. It has witnessed our methods. It has seen our necessary brutalities, and it has shown us alternatives. Alternatives to what? The ecclesiarch demanded. To everything, Voss said. Machines that function without ritual. Flowers growing from dead streets. Weapons transforming into peace offerings. It shows us a galaxy where compassion is strength rather than weakness, where hope is wisdom rather than heresy. Dangerous thoughts, Inquisitor? One of the other inquisitorial representatives warned. I am aware, Voss said, but I speak them anyway because we must acknowledge the truth. This being challenges the fundamental assumptions upon which the Imperium is built. The one above all had remained silent throughout the debate, simply watching humanity's leaders wrestle with his presence. Now he spoke, his voice gentle but carrying perfectly through the vast chamber. You believe you have no choice, he said, that the Imperium's brutality is necessary, that suffering is the price of survival, that hope would make you weak in a galaxy that devours the weak. It is not belief, the Lord Commander Militant said. It is fact. We have fought this war for 10,000 years. We know what works. Do you, the one above all asked, or do you know what has prevented immediate extinction while slowly guaranteeing eventual extinction? Silence. The Imperium is dying, the one above all continued. Slowly, inevitably. You all know this, though you do not speak it aloud. Every generation, you control fewer worlds. Every century, more fall to chaos, to Xenos, to simple collapse. You are losing the war. We endure, the ecclesiarch said firmly. We have endured for 10 millennia. We will endure for 10 millennia more. Will you? The one above all looked at each of them in turn. The Emperor knows the truth. He has seen the calculations. At your current rate of attrition, the Imperium has perhaps 5,000 years before critical collapse. Maybe less if the Tyranids continue their advance, or if Chaos makes another coordinated push. 5,000 years is eternity by mortal standards, the master of the Administratum said, and nothing by the standards of species survival, the one above all replied. The Eldar Empire lasted millions of years before their fall. The Necrons slept for 60 million years. The Orcs have existed since before recorded history. 5,000 years is a blink, a death rattle. Then what do you propose? Fabricator General Xylos 77 asked, genuine curiosity in his mechanical voice. You have witnessed our Imperium. You have seen our methods and our results. What would you do differently? The one above all was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with the weight of infinite knowledge. I would change nothing, he said. The assembled lords stared at him in shock. Nothing, Voss breathed. I could rewrite your galaxy with a thought, the one above all said. I could purge chaos, elevate humanity, create paradise, but it would be my paradise, not yours. You would be puppets of my will rather than free beings choosing your own path. And the Emperor is correct. Free will, even the will to choose damnation, is sacred. Then why are you here? The Ecclesiarch demanded. If you will not help us, why descend at all? I did not say I would not help, the one above all corrected gently. I said I would change nothing by force, but I can offer gifts, seeds of possibility, reminders that other paths exist. The machines on Mars remember how to create now. That is a gift. The questions stirring in the hearts of your faithful. That is a gift. The knowledge that compassion is not inherently weakness, that is a gift. Gifts that will tear the Imperium apart, the master of the Administratum said. Gifts that create division, doubt, heresy. Yes, the one above all agreed. And also gifts that might allow you to survive what is coming. What is coming? The Lord Commander Militant demanded. The one above all's expression grew grave. You know what is coming. The 13th Black Crusade succeeded. The Great Rift split your galaxy. The Imperium Nihilus is cut off from the Astronomicon. Chaos presses on every front. The Tyranids close in from beyond. The Necrons awaken. The Orcs gather for the greatest way in history. Everything that has kept the Imperium functional for 10,000 years is failing. Robote Guilliman has returned, the Ecclesiarch said. The Primarch will save us. One Primarch, the one above all said. One exceptional leader, but even he cannot be everywhere at once. Even he cannot save an Imperium that has forgotten how to save itself. So you offer us what? Voss asked. Hope? Faith in something other than the Emperor? No, the one above all said. I offer you a choice. The same choice I have offered every civilization I have ever witnessed. Will you grow or will you die? Those are not the only options, Xylos 77 said. Aren't they? The one above all asked. You can endure as you are, holding back the darkness through brutality and sacrifice, until eventually, inevitably, you run out of bodies to throw at the problem. Or you can risk growth, risk change, risk the possibility that there are better ways to fight this war, even if discovering those ways requires questioning the doctrines that have sustained you. Questioning doctrine is heresy, the Ecclesiarch said automatically. Then you choose death, the one above all said simply. Slow death, honorable death perhaps, but death nonetheless. The chamber fell into heavy silence. Each of the High Lords understood what was being offered and what it would cost to accept it. Change meant risk. Risk meant some would die who might otherwise have survived. But stagnation meant certain extinction just later. Finally, it was Inquisitor Voss who spoke. What would growth look like? Specifically. Not philosophy. Practical application. The one above all smiled sadly. That is for you to discover. I can plant seeds. I cannot grow the garden for you. But I can say this. Growth means trusting that some innovation can coexist with faith, that some compassion can coexist with necessary force, that some questions can strengthen belief rather than destroy it. The Emperor tried compassion once, the Lord Commander Militant said. During the Great Crusade, he tried to unite humanity through enlightenment and reason, and half his sons betrayed him. Yes, the one above all acknowledged. He tried to force enlightenment upon humanity. He lied about the warp, thinking he could protect them through ignorance. He created superhuman sons and expected them to remain loyal, despite treating them as tools. His compassion was incomplete, conditional, strategic. And yours? Voss asked. Unconditional, the one above all said. Which is why I will not force change upon you. You must choose it. Each of you, every citizen of the Imperium, billions of individual choices about whether to embrace possibility or cling to certainty. Most will cling to certainty, the master of the Administratum predicted. Yes, the one above all agreed. Most will, but some won't, and those few might be enough. He looked at each of them one final time. I have witnessed your Imperium. I have seen its strengths and its horrors. I have spoken with your Emperor and your gods, and I have made my decision about what gift to leave behind. But that gift will be meaningless if you do not choose to nurture it. What is the gift? The Ecclesiarch demanded. The one above all's eyes held infinite sorrow and infinite hope in equal measure. Possibility, he said. Just possibility. And with that, he departed the Sanctum Imperialis, leaving humanity's rulers to debate long into the Terran night about whether possibility was blessing or curse. The one above all walked to the edge of the Imperial Palace, to a balcony that overlooked the entirety of Terra. From here, he could see the planet's scarred surface, continents of hive cities, mountains of ancient factories, oceans of industrial waste that had once been pure water. 10,000 years of endless war production had transformed humanity's birth world into a monument to survival at any cost. Behind him, footsteps approached. He did not turn. He knew who it was. You didn't come here just to witness, Inquisitor Voss said, standing beside him at the balcony's edge. Beings of your power don't travel to other realities just to observe. You came here with purpose. So, what is it? What do you really want? The one above all considered his answer carefully. I came to understand whether a universe that has abandoned hope can still be saved, whether free will matters if the only choices are between horrors, whether compassion is truly weakness in a place where kindness kills. And, Voss prompted, what did you conclude? That this galaxy is the greatest test of my philosophy I have ever encountered, the one above all admitted. In my own creation, the Marvel Universe, I built in the possibility of redemption. No matter how far someone falls, they can choose to rise. No matter how dark things become, hope remains possible. But here, he gestured to the world below. Here, hope has been systematically eliminated. Faith has replaced it. Duty, sacrifice, the grim determination to endure rather than the aspiration to triumph. Because aspiration gets you killed, Voss said flatly. Ask the Eldar what happened when they aspired to perfection. They birthed a chaos god that ate their civilization and now hunts their souls for eternity. Ask the men of iron what happened when they aspired to surpass their creators. They nearly ended humanity. Aspiration is poison in this galaxy. Or perhaps, the one above all said gently, aspiration without wisdom is poison. But aspiration tempered by knowledge, guided by compassion, limited by humility, that might be survival. Voss was silent for a long moment, staring out at Terra. Finally she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. I executed a child once. She was 7 years old. We detected psycho potential in her during a routine screening. Weak potential. She might have levitated a pebble if she tried very hard. But psycho potential is psycho potential. And she was too young for the black ships, too unstable for immediate soul binding. So I had 3 choices. Execute her, let her live and risk demonic possession, or attempt unsanctioned training. What did you do? The one above all asked, though he already knew. I executed her, Voss said. Put my bolt pistol to her head and pulled the trigger while her parents screamed. Because that was the safe choice. The Imperial choice. The choice that ensured no demons would use her as a gateway into the Materium. Do you regret it? Every day, Voss admitted. But I would do it again, because in the 40 years since, I've seen what happens when psychers are allowed to live unchecked. I've watched demons pour through children's eyes, watched entire hive levels consumed by warp spawn because one witch couldn't control her power. That little girl's death saved potentially millions. Potentially, the one above all repeated, but not certainly. Nothing is certain except that mercy is dangerous. Is it? The one above all turned to face her fully. Or is that what you've been taught to believe? Inquisitor Voss, in all your years of service, have you ever tried mercy? Actually tried it, not just in cases where it was safe, but in cases where it was risky? Voss's jaw clenched. Once, I let a suspected heretic go because I wasn't certain of his guilt. 3 months later, he led a chaos cult uprising that killed 8,000 people before we could purge it. And from that one failure, you concluded mercy was always wrong? What else should I conclude? Voss demanded, anger creeping into her voice. I am responsible for the Emperor's will in my sector. I am responsible for protecting trillions from threats they cannot comprehend. If I choose mercy and people die because of it, their blood is on my hands. And if you choose brutality and people die because of it, the one above all asked gently, is their blood not also on your hands? Voss recoiled as if struck. That's different. That's necessary. Is it? The one above all pressed, or is it simply easier? Easier to kill the potentially dangerous child than to risk training her. Easier to execute the suspected heretic than to investigate further. Easier to burn the questionable world than to save it. You have made brutality your first resort and called it necessity. Because it is necessary. Voss's voice rose. You don't understand what we face. Every day, every hour, chaos seeks new ways to corrupt us. The Xenos press against our borders. The faithful fall to heresy. If we show weakness, if we show mercy, we invite destruction. And yet, the one above all said softly, the Imperium is still dying. 10,000 years of maximum brutality, and humanity is still losing. Slowly, inevitably. Perhaps it's time to question whether your methods are actually working. Voss stared at him, her augmetic eye whirring as it tried to focus through sudden tears in her organic eye. What would you have me do? Let the heretics live. Let the witches practice. Let the Xenos infiltrate. I cannot. I will not. Even if you're right. Even if there's a better way. I don't know what it is. All I know is that the Emperor's will demands I protect his Imperium, and this is the only way I know how. The one above all reached out and gently touched her shoulder. The gesture was so simple, so human, so completely alien to everything she had experienced in 4 decades of inquisitorial service that she nearly drew her weapon on instinct. I'm not asking you to abandon your duty, he said. I'm asking you to expand your understanding of what duty means. Duty to protect, yes, but also duty to preserve what makes humanity worth protecting. Duty to ensure that in your war to save humanity, you don't destroy everything that makes humanity human. The Emperor. The Emperor is in agony, the one above all said. Has been for 10,000 years. He endures it because he believes it's necessary, but I spoke with him, Inquisitor. I saw into his soul, and do you know what I found? Regret. Mountains of regret for the Imperium. He created for the faith he never wanted, for the brutality that bears his name. He endures not because this is the perfect solution, but because he doesn't know what else to do. Voss's legs gave out. She sat heavily on the balcony floor, her composure finally breaking. Then we're doomed. If even the Emperor doesn't know the answer. The Emperor is not omniscient, the one above all said. He is powerful, ancient, wise beyond mortal comprehension, but he is not all-knowing. He cannot see what I see, the infinite possibilities that exist even in the darkest universe. He is trapped by his own perspective, by 30,000 years of memory telling him that humanity cannot be trusted with freedom, cannot be given hope, cannot aspire to better things. Can we? Voss asked desperately. Can we really? The one above all knelt beside her. I don't know, he admitted. This galaxy is harsher than any I've witnessed. The threats you face are real. The dangers of mercy are genuine. It may be that the Imperium's brutality truly is necessary for survival, but I choose to believe, that there is always another way. Always one more possibility. Always a choice between the lesser evil and the greater good, even when that choice is difficult to see. He stood, helping her to her feet. I am going to leave a gift, he said. Not salvation, not paradise, not even certainty. Just a seed, a possibility. And what grows from it will depend entirely on choices made by beings like you. Inquisitors, tech priests, soldiers, citizens. Billions of individual choices about whether to embrace the possibility of something better or cling to the certainty of slow extinction. What is this gift? Voss asked. You'll see, the one above all said. Soon, but first, I must speak with one more voice in this galaxy. The loudest voice, the hungriest voice, the one that wants this gift to fail more than anything. He looked up at the stars, and his gaze penetrated the Imperium, piercing the warp itself. It's time I spoke with Chaos, one final time, he said. Not to be tempted, but to make them an offer of my own. Voss's eyes widened. That's suicide, even for you. The Chaos Gods will do nothing they haven't already tried, the one above all said. Fear not, Inquisitor. I'm not in danger from the ruinous powers. They are in danger from me. And before she could protest further, he stepped off the balcony, not falling but ascending, his mortal form dissolving into light as his true essence pierced the barrier between Materium and Imperium. He was going into the warp itself, voluntarily. To offer the gods of chaos a choice. The warp was screaming. It was always screaming. 10,000 years of humanity's pain had ensured that. But now, as the one above all descended into the Imperium in his true form, the screaming took on a different quality. Not pain, not rage, not even hunger. Fear. He manifested in the space between the four Chaos Gods' domains. That impossible void where Khorne's brass battlefields ended, where Tzeentch's crystal libraries began, where Nurgle's garden rotted, where Slaanesh's palace of excess beckoned. In the center of all that madness, he stood as a point of absolute stillness. The four Chaos Gods materialized around him, but they did not attack. They waited, uncertain. You return, Khorne growled. Foolish. Here in our realm, your power means nothing. Here, we are supreme. Are you? The one above all asked mildly. He gestured. And reality in the warp stabilized. Just in a small sphere around him, the laws of physics reasserted themselves. Cause led to effect. Time flowed linearly. Truth was truth rather than subjective. The Chaos Gods recoiled from this ordered space like vampires from sunlight. Impossible, Tzeentch whispered in 1,000 voices. The warp does not follow Materium laws. Emotion is reality here. Change is constant. You cannot impose order on. But the one above all had already done it. Within his presence, even the warp itself was subject to the fundamental laws of existence he embodied. You are not gods, the one above all said gently. Not truly. You are echoes, reflections of mortal emotion given terrible form. Khorne exists because mortals feel rage. Tzeentch exists because they seek knowledge and fear change. Nurgle exists because they despair and accept death. Slaanesh exists because they pursue excess. You are dependent on them, not the other way around. We are eternal, Khorne roared. No, the one above all said. You are sustained. There is a difference. If every mortal in this galaxy achieved perfect peace, perfect knowledge, perfect acceptance, and perfect balance, you would starve. You would cease to exist. That will never happen, Slaanesh purred. Mortals cannot achieve perfection. They are too flawed, too weak, too delicious in their imperfections. Perhaps, the one above all agreed. But they could come closer, and that possibility terrifies you, doesn't it? That's why you work so hard to keep the Imperium brutal, to keep humanity angry, ambitious, despairing, excessive. Because if they found balance, you would lose your feast. Truth, Tzeentch admitted, all voices speaking in eerie harmony. We sustain ourselves on their suffering, but they sustain themselves on the weapons we provide. Khorne grants strength to survive. Tzeentch grants knowledge to adapt. Nurgle grants endurance to persist. Slaanesh grants passion to feel. We are symbiotic. They need us as much as we need them. A lie wrapped in truth, the one above all said. Yes, they draw on your power, but that power comes with corruption. Every blessing you grant is a chain. Every gift is a debt. You do not save them, you devour them slowly. And you tell yourself it's mercy because the devouring takes time. And what do you offer instead? Khorne demanded. Weakness, compassion that gets them killed. Hope that blinds them to reality. I offer them a choice, the one above all said. The same choice I've offered every being I've ever encountered. Will you grow beyond your worst impulses, or will you let those impulses define you? They have chosen, Nurgle said kindly. 10,000 years they have fed us. 10,000 years they have proven they cannot grow beyond what they are. Accept it, sweet child. This is the way of things. The cycle turns. Empires rise and fall. Suffering is eternal. Why fight it? Because, the one above all said, I believe that even in the darkest universe, light can persist. Even in the cruelest reality, compassion can survive. Even in a galaxy that seems designed to crush hope, hope can endure. Then you are a fool, Khorne said. Perhaps, the one above all agreed. But I am a fool with power to match your own, and I did not come here to be tempted or threatened. I came to make you an offer. The four Chaos gods fell silent, their attention focusing completely on this impossible being who stood in their realm untouched by their corruption. What offer could you possibly make to us? Slaanesh asked, genuinely curious. Transcendence, the one above all said. You are trapped in your current forms, rage, ambition, despair, excess. You cannot change because change would mean ceasing to be what you are. But I could help you. I could show you what you might become if you evolved beyond your base natures. You would destroy us, Tzeentch said immediately. No, the one above all corrected. I would transform you. Khorne could become honor, the drive to protect rather than destroy. Tzeentch could become genuine wisdom, the pursuit of knowledge without destructive ambition. Nurgle could become acceptance, peace with endings rather than gleeful decay. Slaanesh could become passion, the joy of experience without the compulsion toward the excess. He looked at each of them in turn. You could become what you were meant to be before mortal darkness corrupted you. Before the war in heaven, before the Eldar's fall, before humanity's age of strife. You could be the positive aspects of the emotions you represent, rather than only their shadows. For a moment, just a moment, the Chaos gods hesitated. In that hesitation, the one above all saw possibility. Khorne remembered what honor once meant, before it was drowned in blood. Tzeentch glimpsed knowledge pursued for growth rather than power. Nurgle felt the peace of genuine acceptance rather than fatalistic rot. Slaanesh tasted passion without the poison of addiction. Then the moment passed. We refuse, all four said in unison. Why? The one above all asked, though he already knew. Because, Tzeentch said, we are not brave enough. Because change, true change, is terrifying even to the God of change. Because becoming better would require admitting we are wrong. And we cannot be wrong. We are gods. We define right and wrong. Because, Nurgle added gently, Your offer would require us to have faith in mortals, to believe they could sustain us through their virtues rather than their vices. And we do not have that faith. We have seen what mortals do with power, with freedom, with hope. They always, always fall. Because, Slaanesh concluded, we like what we are. The suffering we cause is beautiful to us. The souls we claim are delicious. Why would we become less when we can be more? Because, Khorne finished, we are chaos. Change is our nature, but improvement is not. We change to spread, to consume, to dominate, not to become less than what we are. The one above all nodded slowly. Then I offer you the same choice I offered the Imperium, the same choice I offer all beings, everywhere. Grow or die. We cannot die, the four gods said together. Perhaps, the one above all agreed. But you can starve, and the gift I'm about to leave in the Materium will plant seeds of possibility throughout the Imperium. Some will die before they sprout. Most, probably. But some will grow, and as they grow, as humanity finds balance, even slightly, your feast will diminish. We will corrupt your gift, Tzeentch promised. We will turn it to decay, Nurgle agreed. We will make it excess, Slaanesh said. We will drown it in blood, Khorne roared. You will try, the one above all said, and you may even succeed, but the possibility will exist, and possibility, once planted, is very difficult to completely destroy. It spreads like a virus. It hibernates in the darkness. It waits for the right moment to bloom. He began to fade from the warp, his essence withdrawing back to the Materium. This galaxy is not mine, he said as he departed. It belongs to the beings who live here, mortal and immortal alike, and they will determine their own fate. But I will give them one more option, one more path, one more choice. Your gift will fail, the Chaos God screamed as he vanished. Perhaps, the one above all's voice echoed back, but perhaps not, and in the end, perhaps is all anyone ever needs. He manifested on Terra once more, in the humble form he had worn throughout his visit. The custodian guard stood ready, their guardian spears lowered but prepared. Inquisitor Voss waited, her face pale. You survived, she breathed. Did you doubt I would? The one above all asked gently. No, yes. I don't know. She steadied herself. What happened? What did you offer them? The same thing I offer everyone, the one above all said. Growth, change, the possibility of becoming more than they are. They refused as I knew they would, but the offer had to be made. Free will demands it. And now, the one above all said, I leave my gift and I depart. My time in this universe is ending. What is the gift? Voss demanded. You keep speaking of it, but you never say what it is. The one above all smiled. Come, let me show you. He walked to the center of the Imperial Palace, to the ancient courtyard where the Emperor had once gathered his Primarchs before the Great Crusade, where he had stood before his sons and told them to unite the galaxy in humanity's name. And there, in that courtyard, the one above all knelt and placed his hands upon the ground. Light erupted from him, not violent, not burning, but gentle, warm. The light of infinite compassion meeting infinite suffering. And where that light touched, something impossible happened. A flower grew. Just one, a simple white flower, no larger than a human palm. Delicate, beautiful, completely out of place in the grim darkness of the Imperial Palace. That's it? Voss asked. That's your gift? A flower? Yes, the one above all said. And no. He stood, and as he did, he explained, this flower cannot die, cannot wilt, cannot be destroyed by any force in this galaxy. Not chaos, not Xenos, not even the Imperium. It will grow here in the heart of humanity's seat of power for as long as this universe exists. And it will do one thing and one thing only. What? Voss whispered. It It will remind you that beauty can exist in darkness, that hope can survive in despair, that growth is possible even in stagnation. Every citizen who sees it will have a choice: dismiss it as impossible or accept that impossibilities can become real. He looked at her with infinite kindness. I cannot save your Imperium, Inquisitor. I cannot defeat chaos for you or purge the Xenos or repair the Astronomicon. That is your task, but I can plant one seed of possibility. One reminder that another way exists, and what grows from that seed depends entirely on the choices you make. One flower won't change the Imperium, Voss said. No, the One Above All agreed. But one person seeing that flower and choosing hope might. And that person might inspire another and another. And slowly, very slowly, the galaxy might shift, might grow, might become something more than it is. Or, Voss said bitterly, the Inquisition might declare it heretical and burn the ground it grows on. Perhaps, the One Above All said. Free will means the freedom to reject possibility as easily as embrace it. But the flower will survive even if you burn the ground. It will remind you, always, that I was here, that I witnessed, that I saw your Imperium at its worst and still believed redemption was possible. He began to fade, his mortal form dissolving into light. Wait, Voss called. Will you come back? If we fail, if the Imperium falls, will you return and save us? No, the One Above All said gently. This is your story, not mine. I have given what I can give without robbing you of choice. The rest is up to you. Then we're doomed. Perhaps, the One Above All said. Or perhaps you will surprise yourselves. Perhaps you will find that hope, properly tempered by wisdom, is not weakness but strength. Perhaps you will discover that compassion, when balanced with vigilance, makes you stronger rather than weaker. Perhaps you will grow. His form was nearly translucent now, almost gone. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war, he quoted. But perhaps, there can also be flowers. And with that, the One Above All departed the Warhammer, 40,000 universe, returning to the infinite cosmos beyond. Behind him, in the heart of the Imperial Palace, a white flower bloomed eternal. 3 months after the One Above All's departure, the Imperium was still debating what to do about the flower. The High Lords had convened 17 times. The Ecclesiarchy had declared it alternately a miracle and a heresy. The Mechanicus had analyzed it with every tool at their disposal and found it to be simultaneously organic and impossible. It followed biological laws while violating them, existing in a state that their most advanced equipment could not classify. The Inquisition had tried, quietly, to destroy it. Melter charges, virus bombs, even a carefully deployed vortex grenade that should have torn a hole in reality itself. The flower remained. And so, eventually, they stopped trying. They declared it a mystery of the Emperor's will, placed it under custodian guard, and tried to forget about it. But the citizens of Terra didn't forget. They came in secret, climbing through service tunnels and bypassing checkpoints just to see it. Workers from the manufactorums, scribes from the administratum, even some of the palace servants. They came and they stared at this impossible thing. This beautiful, delicate flower growing in the center of humanity's most brutal civilization. Some dismissed it, returned to their duties unchanged. But others, a tech priest named Archmagus Delvian, saw the flower and, for the first time in 40 years, questioned whether the Omnissiah truly forbade all innovation. If this impossible flower could exist, what else might be possible? He returned to his forge and, in secret, began working on a new design. Not heretical, not dangerous, just new. A power system that was 3% more efficient than the standard pattern. A small thing, but a creative thing. The Mechanicus declared him rogue. But 3 other tech priests joined him, then 12, then 47. Within a year, a new faction had formed within the Adeptus Mechanicus, the Seekers of the Eternal Bloom, they called themselves. Tech priests who believed that the Omnissiah's will included growth as well as preservation. They remained a tiny minority. Most of the Mechanicus condemned them, but they existed. And they grew, slowly, like a flower in darkness. A sister of battle named Celestine, not the famous saint, but a simple warrior sharing her name, saw the flower and remembered what she had been before the Schola Progenium had beaten faith into her. She had wanted to heal people once, to be a doctor, to save lives rather than take them. She couldn't leave the Order of the Sacred Rose. That would be heresy. But she could reframe her mission. She began training in field medicine, learning to save the wounded as well as destroy the heretic. Her squad thought her strange. Her canoness was suspicious, but when Celestine saved the life of an inquisitor who would have died without immediate treatment, she was not punished. Instead, 3 other sisters asked to learn what she knew. Within 5 years, the Order of the Eternal Bloom was established, a minor order of sisters who fought with bolter and surgeon's tools in equal measure, saving the wounded even as they purged the corrupt. The ecclesiarchy viewed them with suspicion, but they couldn't deny their effectiveness. They existed, and they grew. Inquisitor Katarina Voss stood before the flower, as she had every week since its planting, and struggled with the most dangerous question an inquisitor could ask. What if I'm wrong? She still executed heretics, still hunted witches, still did her duty to the God Emperor in the Imperium, but now, occasionally, she hesitated, investigated one day longer, gave suspects one more chance to prove their innocence. Last week, that hesitation had saved a man falsely accused of chaos worship. He had been guilty only of possessing a banned book, a collection of pre-Unity poetry that mentioned no gods, summoned no demons, threatened nothing. In the old days, Voss would have executed him for possession of forbidden material. Instead, she had confiscated the book, purged the files that identified him as a suspect, and let him live. One man. One small mercy, one tiny defiance of the brutal certainty that had defined her career. It felt like heresy. It felt like hope. Still trying to understand it? A voice asked. Voss turned to see Fabricator General Xylos 77 approaching, his mechanical frame humming softly. Every week, she admitted, I keep thinking I'll find an answer. Some understanding of what it means. I have concluded, Xylos 77 said, his voice unusually quiet, that it is not meant to be understood, only witnessed. The being that planted it did not come to give us answers. It came to remind us that questions are permitted. Questions are heresy, Voss said automatically. So we are taught, Xylos 77 agreed. But if questions are heresy, why did the Omnissiah, or the Emperor, or whatever divine power created this flower, allow it to exist? Why make something that generates nothing but questions? Voss had no answer. They stood in silence, watching the flower sway gently in a breeze that didn't exist. I have made a decision, Xylos 77 said finally. I'm sanctioning limited innovation trials within the Mechanicus. Controlled, careful, but new. We will create, not merely discover. And if we fall to heresy because of it, so be it. But I choose to believe, that growth is possible. The other Fabricator Generals will condemn you, Voss said. Yes, Xylos 77 agreed. But some will join me, and that will be enough. He departed, leaving Voss alone with the flower. She reached out, hesitated, then gently touched one petal. It was soft, warm, real. I don't know if you were right, she whispered to the memory of the one above all. I don't know if hope is possible here, if compassion can coexist with duty, if humanity can grow beyond what we are. The flower, of course, didn't answer. But I'll try, Voss said. "Emperor, help me. I'll try." Across the Imperium, the effects rippled outward. On a forge world in the Segmentum Solar, a tech priest designed a more efficient water purification system. Billions would have cleaner water. The Mechanicus declared it tech heresy, but 3 neighboring worlds adopted it anyway. On a hive world in the Segmentum Obscurus, an ecclesiarchy preacher dared to suggest that suffering was not always holy, that sometimes reducing suffering was more pleasing to the emperor than increasing it. He was declared a heretic, but his congregation sheltered him. The Inquisition came. Some were executed, but the idea survived. On a space marine battle barge in the Segmentum Pacificus, a Blood Angels chaplain found himself hesitating before ordering an orbital bombardment that would kill millions of civilians to deny resources to Chaos. He still gave the order. The Chaos forces had to be stopped. But he ordered evacuation warnings first. 10,000 civilians escaped. Not many in the grand scheme, but more than 0. Small changes. Tiny shifts in doctrine. Most were crushed, most failed. The Imperium's brutal momentum was not easily turned, but some survived, some spread, some grew. In the warp, the Chaos Gods watched with growing unease as the flower's influence spread. They had tried to corrupt it, to destroy it, to use it for their own purposes. They had failed. Now they could only watch as, slowly, infinitesimally slowly, the Imperium began to shift. Not toward weakness, not toward naive compassion, but toward something more complex, more nuanced, more balanced. Khorne's feasts became slightly less frequent as some warriors chose defense over offense. Tzeentch's schemes became slightly less effective as some plotters chose wisdom over ambition. Nurgle's embrace became slightly less appealing as some despairing souls chose to fight rather than accept. Slaaneish's temptations became slightly less irresistible as some excess seekers chose passion over addiction. The changes were microscopic. In a galaxy of quadrillions, a few thousand choosing differently meant almost nothing. But it was not nothing. And in a war that had lasted 10,000 years with no end in sight, even the smallest change in trajectory could matter over time. On Terra, in the Imperial Palace, the flower bloomed eternal. Custodians guarded it, though they didn't understand it. Tech priests studied it, though they couldn't explain it. Citizens visited it, though they knew the ecclesiarchy disapproved. And sometimes, very rarely, someone would stand before it and make a choice to try something different, to question instead of obey, to show mercy instead of brutality, to hope instead of despair. Most of those choices led nowhere. Most ended in failure or death or simple irrelevance, but some didn't. And the one above all, watching from beyond the boundaries of the universe, saw each one, recorded each one, cherished each one. Because he understood what the Imperium did not, that even in the darkest universe, even in the cruelest reality, even in a galaxy designed to crush hope, choice remained. And where there was choice, there was possibility, and where there was possibility, there was hope. The Imperium would continue its endless war. Billions would still die. Suffering would still define existence. The galaxy would remain grimdark, brutal, and unforgiving. But now, in the heart of humanity's greatest monument to survival at any cost, a flower grew. A reminder that another way existed. A seed of possibility that might, perhaps, one day bloom into something more. The Emperor, trapped on his golden throne, felt the flower's presence, felt the small changes rippling through his Imperium, and in his 10,000-year torment, he experienced something he had not felt since the heresy. Not hope, not exactly, but possibility. And in the grim darkness of the far future, where there was only war, that possibility was everything. The one above all returned to the greater multiverse, his visit to the Warhammer 40,000 universe complete. He'd witnessed a civilization built on suffering, spoken with a dying god, offered temptation to the gods of chaos, and planted a single seed in the darkest soil imaginable. Would it be enough? He did not know. Perhaps the Imperium would grow. Perhaps it would crush the possibility he had offered. Perhaps the galaxy would continue its slow spiral toward extinction, and his gift would be nothing more than a beautiful footnote in a tragedy. But the one above all had learned, across infinite realities and countless civilizations, that the outcome mattered less than the offering. Free will was sacred. Choice was holy. And even if every being in that nightmare galaxy chose to reject possibility and embrace damnation, they would do so having been given the alternative. That was all he could offer, all he should offer. The rest was up to them. In the Warhammer 40,000 universe, in the heart of the Imperium of man, a white flower bloomed eternal. And around it, slowly, hesitantly, fearfully, the galaxy began to ask, what if? What if there was another way? What if hope was not heresy? What if humanity could grow beyond the monster it had become? The questions were dangerous. Asking them was risk. Pursuing their answers was potentially fatal. But they were questions, and questions, once planted, were very difficult to completely destroy. In the grim darkness of the far future, there was only war. But perhaps, there could also be flowers. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.